Hello, Georgie. It's your cousin Nicholas.
Nicky, how are you, old chap? Quite the war we're fighting. Still giving Jerry everything you've got on the Eastern Front, are we?
I wish I came with a better report. I have, bad news.
Well, that is quite unfortunate.
Da. So, as you know, I took personal command of my army.
Oh, Nicky, that was a sad idea. You are, after all, a terrible commander.
So my people became very upset with me in Russia.
Well, how upset?
They forced me to resign. Take off my crown, to abdicate my throne.
Oh, Nicky, that is awful.
To make matters worse, they replaced me with a provisional government who was just as bad as me at commanding this army.
What a wash!
And then this Lenin guy came and was like, all property is for all the people. The people can be their own masters.
No, an affront to your monarchy?
What monarchy? I am disposed and a nobody now.
Oh, Nicky, I do apologize terribly for hearing this. Such unfortunate news.
No, I feel bad for you. With my army out of the war, it is only a matter of time before the Germans send all their soldiers here from the Eastern Front to your way.
That is true. Looks like my biscuits will be burnt now.
Da?
Oh, Nicky, I'm so sorry to hear that this has befallen you. I wish I could help, but my chaps are locked in battle on the Western Front.
Hey, at least I get to be with my family here in a nice chateau in the woods, under house arrest.
Well, Nicky, I suppose my chaps will have to win this war, and then I'll come free you, and we'll have a nice spot of tea in a short time.
Huh? You like it? Not a very happy ending. Well, it was a war and a revolution all at the same time. Yeah, not a good time to be in Russia. Definitely not. I bet the British and French were pretty worried after the Russians left the war. Yeah, it's bad news when an entire front shuts down in a war. All those German troops were sent over to the Western Front. With all that new manpower, they really threatened the Allies. Yeah, not good. Fortunately, the Americans were in the process of joining the war as the Russians were leaving the war. Wait, I thought the US was trying to stay out of the war. That was the official stance. Actually, Wilson ran on that in his election. But ever since the war started, Americans had been going overseas and enlisting with British and French units. But the American people as a whole didn't really become supportive of war until 1917. What changed? Das Unterboden! Ah! What? The Germans really dove into a modern invention, the submarine. See what I did there? Yes, I caught the pun. The Germans were using the submarine to sink boats that were carrying supplies to and from England, trying to isolate England and therefore starve them out. Okay, so what does that have to do with the United States? Where do you think those boats were coming to and from? Oh, the United States. Exactly. It wasn't actually until the sinking of the Lusitania that Americans were kind of set off. You see, the Lusitania was a British civilian ship, and on it, it had many passengers, it did not have any weapons, and it did not have any soldiers, and it did not have any war supplies. A German U-boat torpedoed the ship, and when it sank, about half of the 1,500 people drowned. 128 of those people who drowned were Americans. So the U.S. then gets into the war because some of their citizens die in this tragedy. We were mad. So the Germans started warning ships before they torpedoed them just to keep the United States out of the war. So if that wasn't enough to get the Americans involved, what was? Well,
Foreign Minister Zimmerman, this war is getting kind of crazy for us. It would be a real killjoy if the Americans got involved.
yeah, I know. That is why I've had a light bulb moment.
Yeah?
We have a man in Mexico. Aircraft. I have a great plan.
That is good. What is the plan?
Well, we will offer an alliance to Mexico if they attack the United States. Is the United States busy fighting Mexico? They cannot come help the British and French dogs.
that is wonderful. Das ist wunderbar.
I know, I thought of it all up myself. But it wasn't executed well. You see, the Germans sent their message through the Western Union, a Western Union telegram that had to travel across Western Union communication lines that happened to have a Western Union headquarters in London, England, where the British were listening into every single message that was being sent overseas to North America.
Wait, so did the British intercept Zimmerman's telegram?
Yes, and it was sent over to Woodrow Wilson, the President of the United States, who then shared that message with the American people, who became very angry and declared war on Germany in 1917.
Nice.
But it wasn't until later that year in November that the United States was actually fully prepared and ready to fight in the war in Europe.
That makes sense. It takes time to train and then send soldiers across the sea to fight.
Exactly.
But the war ended in 1918, so that means that the Americans really weren't in the war for very long.
We weren't, but we did help in several major campaigns. Cantigny, Battle of Belleau Woods, and the Second Battle of the Marne. With the Germans really tired and fresh American troops helping the Allies had just enough of an advantage to force the Germans to surrender.
And the war ended November 11th, 1918.
11/11 at 11:11 a.m.
Wait, was that done on purpose?
Yes, the Allies were very angry, and now they had the power to determine the terms of surrender for Germany and her allies.
Didn't Woodrow Wilson want to make things, like, peaceful between the two sides?
He did. He came up with the 14 points, which was a plan to try to help unify Europe and help heal the wounds of battle between the combatant countries after World War I.
That's a smart idea, decreasing tensions between combatant nations after a war. Duh.
It was a very good idea. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. Instead, the Allies wrote the Treaty of Versailles.
What did it do?
Well, peace, but under the guilt clause, it blamed Germany for the whole war.
Gentlemen, the war is over. It's time for us to figure out what our terms for peace shall be.
I had an idea. Actually, 14 little ideas. Right here. About how we can unify after this terrible conflict, get the world back on its feet. It involves everyone pitching in to decrease arms and help Germany.
Are you crazy, American? The Germans must pay for what they have done. They invaded my country. They killed millions of my soldiers and my civilians. No unity. The Germans must pay.
But Serbia and Austria-Hungary started the war.
I know. Germany's leader, Kaiser Wilhelm, was sent packing out of his country, and Germany was fined for all of the war damage.
Ooh, a hefty bill, I'm sure.
So hefty, it sunk the German economy into a deep depression.
Yikes.
Yeah. It did the opposite of Wilson's plan. Instead of promoting peace, it created tension, with Germany being unfairly blamed for the war and being mistreated with the treaty, and also being stripped of its empire.
Does that have anything to do with the start of World War II?
It has everything to do with World War II.
Oh man. World War I sounds like a bad thing, just all around. Just bad.
While the technology progressed, the relationship between European countries did not. About 20 million people, that is, civilians and soldiers, died in World War I.
That's a lot of people.
While World War II would be worse, World War I did warn us that our advances in technology could cause tremendous damage if not properly controlled. The world was changing.
Sure was.
This changing world was entering a new era, an era of glamour and glitz, jazz, and illegal booze. Especially in the United States, who welcomed the Roaring '20s.
Nice.
Yeah, but first we're going to explore the Russian Revolution with our pal Tsar Nicholas II.
Only problem. He dead.
Oh yeah, forgot about that.